Welcome all to the 300K Entrepreneurs Challenge 2020 Social Venture Competition. We're so delighted that you were able to join us today. On behalf of our entire team, Phoebe, Shay, Danny, and Pat, it's good to see you, even if not in person. Just for those of you who are not as familiar with what we do here at the Berkeley Center for Entrepreneurship, we are a venture design studio. And essentially what that means is that we work with aspiring entrepreneurs at NYU to give them the resources and the support that they need to develop their venture ideas. And we encourage students and alumni and faculty, for that fact, to experiment and to be creative and to be innovators. And we do that through a variety of programs that include hundreds of hours of coaching and advising, dozens of workshops. Where's my slides? What happened to my slides, Phoebe? All right, I'll do it without. Okay, let's try that again. As well as dozens of events, workshops, boot camps. We also have a summer accelerator program, and our flagship program is this event, the Entrepreneurs Challenge. We've been running it for 20 years, and we've had a wonderful tradition of providing a springboard for promising entrepreneurs here at NYU. This year, 117 teams applied to the Entrepreneurs Challenge. 27 of those who applied were accepted into the program. 8 finalists will be competing today, and 2 of those will be competing in the social venture competition, and you will be meeting them shortly. Today, helping us evaluate our teams, is a distinguished panel of judges, and we're so delighted that all of them could join us today. And so with us, if you have the program, you'll find the bios on page 9. But just in case you don't have that, I'll just do a real high-level introduction just so that you know the wonderful people we have with us. So Sarah Enline is an early innovator in socially responsible mission-based businesses. I don't know how long ago I first heard of Sarah. I've heard of her before I had the chance to meet her. And so her reputation really did precede her. If any of you have heard of Sweet Riot, she is the CEO and the chief writer at that company. And she's currently started a new platform to support artists called Art Writing, artwriting.com. So check that out as well. And so I know we can't hear you, but please join me in welcoming Sarah. Next, we have Rob Fabricant. Rob has been with us for several years, and he's at the forefront of design and technology for more than 25 years. He's currently leads the global team at Dahlberg Design. He was also with Frog Design as well, which is probably how we met him. And he recently co-authored a book, User Friendly, which is on the shelf behind me, by the way. And it was selected by Amazon as one of the top books of 2019. So with the extra time that we all have being somewhat staying at home, that's a good book to grab and read. So welcome, Rob. Thanks again for joining us. Marissa Feinberg is also an old friend of the program. She's founder and chief storyteller of Triple Bottom Y, probably the best name for a company that we have today with us. Triple Bottom Y is a consultancy that offers communications, marketing, digital, and brand storytelling services. She does workshops. She's just a real node in this space, and very generous with her time in nurturing aspiring entrepreneurs. So help me in joining Marissa. Send out those good vibes. Our newbie today is Rebecca Solo. Rebecca is co-founder and executive director of Partners for Justice. Partners for Justice is a nonprofit organization that works to break the cycle of poverty and incarceration. She's also a Stern alum and came very highly recommended by one of our vice deans. And so I was really happy that she was able to join us. Thanks, Rebecca. And last but not least is Greg Van Kirk. Greg was formerly a social entrepreneur in residence for Stern. He has been a practicing social entrepreneur, consultant, educator since 2001. Um, he was an investment banker before becoming a do-gooder, so he's no longer on the dark side. And Greg is also someone who's received too many awards, distinctions, and recognitions to repeat right now, but he's a real innovator in the social impact space. So join me in welcoming our panel. Thanks everybody for being here. I just want to go over a few house rules. We will have two teams presenting in a moment. And at 10 o'clock, we will have Sabai. At 10:30, we will have Block. And essentially, each team will have 9 minutes, 9 uninterrupted minutes to present their venture concept to all of us, but it's certainly especially to the panel of judges. Following their 9 minutes, our judges will have an opportunity to explore with them through Q&A their idea and to ask some questions and to dive a little deeper. They will be evaluated based on the presentation that you're going to see, as well as the startup plan that they had to prepare and that was also reviewed by our judges. When the two presentations are completed, then the judges will deliberate. And at that point, we will ask everyone to sign off and so that the deliberations can be done in private. To our teams, please note to keep an eye on Danny. Danny will be our timekeeper. And so we will do this through a color coding system. So how it will work is when you have 3 minutes left, Danny will hold up a purple sheet paper, as he is doing right now. When there's 1 minute left, he will hold up a yellow piece of paper. Excellent job you're doing, Danny. And then last, when it's time to stop, you'll see red. There you go. And that means stop. And I just wanted to be sure to explore that. Finally, I wanted to say that for all of those who are able, we would love for you to, will certainly be with us for the entire day. Because after the break, we come back and we'll have the new venture competition and the tech venture competition. But at 5 o'clock is when we would be holding the team showcase. And let me stop sharing. We'll do the team showcase, which gives you a chance to meet all of today's finalists. We will be announcing our winners then. And normally this is the time when we would toast them. So we will toast them, but you'll have to bring your own bottle. Okay, so that's how this works today. All right, so without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our teams.
Okay, great. And I'm going to be sort of a little bit of an MC for today. And so Pantilla and Caitlin, I believe you guys are unmuted. The judges are still on mute for the 9 minutes, and I will unmute all of the judges just before we head into Q&A. And Pantilla and Caitlin, I just want to make sure that you are able to see Danny for the kind of colored cards for the time. Can you confirm?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Take it away.
Great. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. I'm Caitlin, and I'm the CEO of Sabai Design.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pantilla, and I'm the COO.
Especially in the time of COVID, our lives have become increasingly centered around our sofas. They're a place to cozy up and read a book, take Zoom calls, or binge TV. Ultimately, it's somewhere we feel safe and at home. But as more and more people are realizing, the story behind your sofa is not so pretty. Every year, 90 million tons of furniture ends up in landfills, with only 20% being recycled. Sofas in particular have the largest carbon footprint of any furniture piece. Over 90% of sofas contain and emit chemicals that eventually end up in your bloodstream, a process called off-gassing. And all foreign-built sofas are required to be treated with these known carcinogens. Most affordable furniture is produced abroad, traveling thousands of miles to reach customers here in the US. The US is by far the largest importer in the world, accounting for about a third of the world's total imports. And if you want to avoid these problems, good luck finding something in your price range. People who do want to buy sustainable or non-toxic furniture are unable to, as most of these options start at around $4,000.
The sustainable product market has grown dramatically and is estimated to reach $151 billion by 2021, as more individuals have recognized the impact our purchases have on the environment. This growth is driven by millennials who care the most about sustainability and have proven that they're willing to pay a premium for eco-friendly products. Similarly, they're also driving the growth in the furniture market, spending $27 billion annually. Our estimated total available market is $6 billion, which is based on statistics around the amount of furniture purchased online, secondhand versus firsthand, and the amount of people who actually care about buying sustainable products. To give you another perspective on the potential and the growth of this market, the Google search term sustainable couch has increased by 4,700% in the past 5 years.
Sustainable brands have become household names. From Reformation to Buffy, companies have broken through in the consumer goods space, all in the name of sustainability. Sustainably marketed products are responsible for more than half the growth in the CPG space since 2013. But despite demand for sustainable yet affordable products, no company has addressed this yet in the furniture space. While some have addressed amenities such as flat pack, fast shipping, and easy assembly, none have centered themselves around building a truly sustainable product. As mentioned, sustainable competitors that do exist are high-end and entirely inaccessible. They don't allow for the majority of individuals to buy with their values and their heart in mind.
That's where we come in. To buy means cozy, comfy, and easy in Thai, where I'm from. We're the only company that offers sustainable and affordable furniture.
Our two primary products are our Essential Sofa and our Essential Sectional. Our sofa retails for $10.95 and our sectional retails for $13.95. All of our products are sold on our website and shipped directly from our factory in North Carolina. We deliver on our commitment to sustainability by considering all aspects of our business and its impact on the environment. We have a great relationship with our manufacturing partner, a family-owned factory that produces our unique designs. We use materials that are sustainable as possible while remaining affordable. We personally sourced all our materials to create a unique network of eco-friendly suppliers. There's no greenwashing with us. Rather than simply projecting a sustainable image, there's truth to sustainability at Sabai. We use FSC certified wood, CertiPure certified foam, and recycled, upcycled, and natural materials. Our products do not off-gas, as we skipped out on harmful chemical treatments, and we utilize responsible packaging, meaning 100% recycled materials and no plastic. Most importantly, our sofas are meant to last. We built them with the end of our life cycle in mind, and they've been tested for 10 years of use and designed to allow easy switching of parts as you have regular wear and tear. The construction of the sofa itself allows it to be designed to enable recycling if it comes to that. Our goal is to make sure your sofa stays off the streets and out of the landfill.
We got where we are today by continuously speaking and listening to our customers. We designed our products in conjunction with our audience, constantly polling them on their preferences. This Instagram poll you see here is an example of one of our most influential points of feedback, where we asked customers whether they prefer thin or wide arms. While we had initially planned on designing the sofa with thin arms to maximize seating space, our audience was emphatic about their preference for wide arms, resulting in the design we have today. We've continued to take our customers' feedback into account since launching. Our focus on creating a product that's truly non-toxic and doesn't off-gas actually developed in response to extremely strong customer inquiries about our materials, everything down to the type of glue we use. These are some numbers that demonstrate what we've achieved since launching and our potential for growth. We've generated over $225,000 in revenue and continue to work tirelessly to increase and establish our brand presence. In May, we saw 91% growth in monthly sales, and that was following a 67% increase in April. We've also continued to engage our customers and ask them about their purchasing decisions, and found that 40% ranked sustainability and toxicity as the #1 reason behind their purchase, demonstrating that this is something people genuinely care about and is driving their purchasing decisions. Lastly, 84% of our customers also stated that they would purchase additional Sabai products.
Just as exciting, here are some ways in which we've measured our impact on the environment. To date, we've recycled over 45,000 water bottles with our signature velvet. We've also saved 225 megajoules of energy, 27.2 kilos of CO2 emissions, and over 8.7 million gallons of water through our use of recycled and upcycled materials, which is enough to fill over 330 pools. As we further target the end of life cycle, the amount we conserve with each Sabai sofa will only increase. Looking ahead, we're currently working on 3 primary objectives. First is our brand awareness and growth. Building brand awareness is a long-term goal, as positioning Sabai as the sustainable furniture company is vital to our long-term success. We're pursuing this through multiple routes, including marketing and PR, partnerships, and B2B relationships. We're currently finalizing discussions with Urban Outfitters and are scheduled to begin a partnership in September. Second is our product development. We're currently redesigning our sofa, which will be implemented this September as well, to maximize shipping efficiency, reduce manufacturing costs, and incorporate cutting-edge sustainable materials and production methods. By the end of the year, we plan to launch our first additional product, a chair, which has been frequently requested by our customers. Finally, we have clear sustainability goals. The cornerstone of the company is our commitment to sustainability, and a large part of that is our commitment to being on the forefront of the movement in the furniture industry. At the beginning of next year, we plan to launch our closed loop and the repair, don't replace initiatives to address the end of life cycle for our product and tackle the issue of furniture waste. We're exploring the possibility of long-term development of patentable, sustainable materials as well.
In addition to the mentorship and programming the 300K Challenge has provided, we're competing with these initiatives and costs in mind. If we were to win, the funds would go towards designing and prototyping additional products, building up inventory for the upcoming partnerships and to service our growing demand, developing life cycle programs, as well as investing in marketing initiatives to establish our brand reputation. As mentioned earlier, our team currently consists of myself and Caitlin. My name is Pantilla, and I'm the CEO of Sabai.
I'm Caitlin, and I'm the CEO.
We founded Sabai because we wanted to make sustainability accessible to our generation. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. With your help, Sabai has the potential to bring sustainability home.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks so much to the team, and for the judges, I believe I've unmuted most of you or asked you to unmute yourselves. So we're now going to head into Q&A. So just as a reminder, this is going to be a conversation between the team and the judges. And what we'll do is allow each judge to get in 1 question to start, and we're going to do this alphabetically. So we'll start with Sarah, then move on to Rob, then Marissa, then Rebecca, and then Greg. And each judge will have an opportunity to ask 1 question. We probably will have a little bit of time after each judge gets in their question for more questions from whichever judge has additional follow-up. And for the team, you should definitely take notes as well on kind of the feedback and the questions that they're asking you. So Danny, let's go ahead and start the 20 minutes. And you can go for it, Sarah.
Thank you. Great job. Wonderful presentation, and certainly a wonderful business that you're creating. Sales is so important to startups, and I love seeing that you had a 91% increase in May. So I want to know kind of how you're going to build on that momentum and keep moving to bring more beautiful furniture to the world.
Yeah. So we have really focused on both kind of direct acquisition of people who are searching for sofas and long-term awareness campaigns. And it's been really great to kind of see that bear fruit to some extent in terms of our sales continually growing. We have kind of engaged a PR firm starting the beginning of the year, and we've continually gotten more and more traction. We've been featured in Arc Digest and Apartment Therapy and various other publications over time. And I think those have been really helpful and will continue to be very helpful in growing the brand's presence and sales. But we also have continued to advertise through direct search and also on social media throughout that to kind of continue sales. And as we've increased our budget for marketing, we've had kind of proportional returns in terms of sales. So we feel comfortable growing that number and seeing increased returns over time.
In terms of trying to bring Sabai's furniture to more and more people, we are also looking into B2B partnerships, as we mentioned in the presentation. We're currently in talks with Urban Outfitters and basically just looking at other revenue streams for Sabai, not only to generate revenue, but also to bring Sabai sofas to other people through partnerships with like hotels or real estate developments, and seeing if those avenues make sense for us.
I think I'm up next, and again, it was a great presentation, and really excited to hear your story of how you got here. And the fact that you're essentially designing something for yourselves, which is always a very good strategy. I have kind of two related follow-up questions. I hope they seem somewhat like one. One is, how are you kind of getting at the heart of the material sourcing around this? Because I know you're working with an outside manufacturer, and I'm just curious how much you're developing these materials versus finding them out in the market. And then kind of related to that, you're reaching a customer that is extremely discriminating. I showed this to my 20-year-old daughter this morning, last night rather. How are you gonna stay ahead of that level of scrutiny as a brand when you make claims across so many different categories and you have a very activist, at least for your core segment, customer who is going to be quite inquisitive about some of these material questions. So yeah, just curious how you're thinking about that.
Yeah, so with respect to the first question, we currently work with a manufacturer based in High Point, North Carolina, which is a furniture hub. We don't develop any of our own materials at the moment, but we did have to go out and source all of the different suppliers ourselves, because sustainable manufacturing is definitely not the default for pretty much any manufacturers. So while there was a manufacturer that was eager to work with us, they didn't have the network of suppliers in place. So we really went out and sourced all the materials ourselves. We try to source as locally as possible. So most of our materials come from the North Carolina region, although some materials like our recycled velvet has to come from China, just because that's where most of recycling does occur. But looking ahead, that's something Caitlin and I have definitely talked a lot about in terms of investing in developing our own materials, especially as sustainable furniture becomes, more recognized as an area where there's a lot of demand. I think that also goes into eliminating competitive risk and getting ahead of that and developing our own materials that are innovative and really pushing the envelope there. With respect to the consumer, that's definitely something we've seen since launching. I think in this space, people are extremely educated. They definitely do a lot of research and are very inquisitive. I think we haven't received a lot of pushback or anything angry, just because we're very transparent about the way that we do things, and that there's always room to improve. And so any customer questions that we get, we try to take into account into our practices as much as possible. For example, when we first launched, we used just a standard, relatively eco-friendly glue, but we received a ton of customer inquiries about the type of glue we use, because that's a big point of concern with respect to off-gassing. And so we took that into account and changed to a water-based glue that doesn't have any VOCs. So I think in terms of remaining engaged with the community, that helps a lot with respect to not having people be angry with us and people just feel like they're not being lied to or tricked in any way. We're definitely trying to constantly improve. So I think maintaining that dialogue is really important.
Yeah, I think we've only seen it as a benefit, just in the way that it's like having a third person on the team, because people say the same comments over and over again, or they ask the same questions over and over again. And it's really gotten us comfortable with the sustainability of the product and made us feel confident. I only think there's been there's some questions that you can't necessarily answer because they're preferences in terms of natural versus a recycled fiber. And so we're trying to give options to our customers in those spaces. But with things that are a little bit more like black and white, we've really pushed ourselves to kind of follow the customer's lead and give them what they want.
Great, thanks so much. I think Marissa, you're up with a question.
Yeah, great. Wonderful, wonderful presentation. Nice to see you. I have a question. These partnerships you talked about can be really wonderful for growing your business. And you said you have one in the pipeline with Urban Outfitters, which is awesome and seems like a really great fit with your brand in terms of the target market of millennials. And, not all of the brands at Urban Outfitters obviously are conscious brands, but definitely I'm sure they would love to have a lot more. So I'd love to hear how you're working with them, how you see yourself working with these other B2B brands in the future as a growth strategy. And do you believe you'll be able to maintain your own brand and values when you work with these bigger players?
Yeah, definitely. So with respect to Urban Outfitters specifically, how that relationship would work would be that our products would be featured on their website and be able to be purchased through their website. Like you mentioned, I think it really works in terms of the alignment of our audience, while Urban Outfitters, I think clothing audience is definitely younger. Their customers in the home space are definitely aligned with our customers. So that works out well. And I think just gives our brand a lot of reputational boost and growth in that area. I think with respect to future B2B partnerships, we're not, I guess, 100% set on it, and it's something that we're exploring at the moment. I think we're really committed to maintaining our current design. Although, when you're working with commercial spaces, we'll probably have to do a full frame rather than a flat pack sofa, which our sofa currently is. But with respect to material standards and everything like that, we're definitely committed to retaining our current standards.
And I do think,
oh yeah.
Oh no. Oh, just to answer your question about
sorry,
private label or not, I think. Our plan was definitely to do this a buy label, and that's kind of the way the discussion is going, because we do want to use it as an opportunity to boost the brand rather than to just kind of do a sub-buy offering at discount that we can't get any kind of brand awareness out of.
Okay, great. So thanks so much to the team for answering, and let's move on to Rebecca.
First, let me say thank you both for this amazing presentation. I really appreciate it. My question for you is, I'd love to hear a little bit more about why you think nobody has done this yet. It seems like such a no-brainer idea. Why hasn't it happened yet? And if you guys are as successful as you hope to be, what's to keep a big furniture company from coming in and eating your lunch down the road?
I think to answer the first question of why no one's done this yet, I mean, there definitely are, like, we're not claiming we're the only sustainable furniture company out there. There definitely are, but it's a hard thing to do. And so it's expensive. And so most furniture companies that are focused on doing this are kind of taking the approach of like all or nothing. So when you go all the way, your sofa ends up being like $4,000, and the majority of people who actually care about being sustainable aren't able to make those purchases. So I think it's a function of that type of mindset, whereas we're really trying to do as much as possible while still remaining accessible and making sure that people can still participate in being sustainable when they normally wouldn't be able to. I think the second question, which is a great question, something Caitlin and I talk about constantly, is how to build this like moat around ourselves and to stop competitors from encroaching on that. I think one of the great things that we have going for us is that there haven't been any entrants that are at the moment that are really focused on offering a piece that's sustainable and affordable. So we definitely have somewhat of a first mover advantage there in terms of establishing our reputation as the sustainable and affordable furniture company. So there's definitely an advantage there, but we definitely are trying to establish that as much as possible while we have that advantage. As Caitlin mentioned, we're engaged in a redesign right now to really reduce our costs and make sure that we're able to scale with our design. At the same time, we're also trying to incorporate sustainability as comprehensively as possible into the product design to really establish our reputation as a brand that's taken this into account and really built a product that's through and through sustainable. Also taking into account the end of life cycle of the product. I think a lot of the time people only think about like, oh, how can we build it with sustainable materials and like domestically, but a huge part of the issue in the furniture industry is the waste. So thinking about that in the design of our product as well, I think just helps to foster this reputation of Sabai as being the brand that's really taking this seriously and is comprehensively sustainable.
Okay, great. And then finally, a question from Greg.
Hey, good morning. First of all, huge congratulations, great work, and really great presentation, and I'm really enjoying the way that you're going about addressing the questions. I just had just a couple of very quick comments, and then a question. One is when you talked about the impact, and you had all of the recycling, plastics aid and all of that. One of my first reactions, just somebody, obviously being in the space to seeing all of that, is one, that it's wonderful, but two, that there's a lot there. And sort of compared to what? So I would just be interested, or just as a note moving forward, to see, is there one type of impact that you would really sort of jump into and speak to that one and be able to substantiate and come at it very strongly, versus much more broad, which are maybe just more extra ones. But by the same token, just the way you responded to everything is, again, I love the humility around it and the continuous learning sort of way you're going about doing it. I'm going back to, I think it was a couple of people have touched on it, Marissa touched on this as well. If people are saying that it's the sustainability and toxicity that are the number one drivers, I would imagine that's within, obviously, your target market, within people who are choosing to buy a sofa at this price, right? But with that in mind too, going back to the partnerships, right? Is how do you, I know you're just exploring it, but any thoughts on keeping your integrity once your brand is attached to another brand? Because if you're attached to Urban Outfitters, let's say, and negative news comes out about Urban Outfitters in some other aspect, obviously that's going to bleed into people's perceptions of you all. So just and obviously thinking about that as you move forward with things. So if the impact is so key to your sales and to who you are and your core values as an organization, how do you maintain that with partners? What do you do? And what do you do if some negative information comes out about the supply chain of Urban Outfitters, for example?
Yeah, I definitely think that's been something on our minds, especially in the past week. There is occasionally unfavorable news about Urban Outfitters, just in terms of creative IP, or this Anthropologie story from the past week that recently came out about Black shoppers. But I think it is kind of a hard needle to thread, just because pretty much every big box company is accused of many things like that. So it's like, which of the lesser evils? I think it's pretty clear that you can't necessarily tie in your values. You can't directly link your values to theirs, and there needs to be some kind of separation and ability to exit the partnership if needed, in terms of those being able to take a stand and kind of show that we are a socially minded company, and we are, like, a supply chain problem would probably lead us to end the relationship if we saw certain things. But other kind of minor blips in negative PR, I would just let slide. I think it was really kind of a sliding scale of how do we determine what is worth canceling those partnerships and what is worth kind of growing the brand and the awareness.
I think also
overall.
with respect to that, I think also just making clear to our customers in any sort of marketing or messaging that, you know, while we do partner with these other companies, like we have our own supply chain and have our own values. And I think that, you know, internally in thinking about whether we want to partner with these companies, if there are supply chain issues with these companies, we'd rather that us go and have those customers buy from us rather than their other products, right? Like it's taking customers away from that and buying from a supply chain that actually is ethical and sustainable. So that's how I think about it a little bit. But I agree with Caitlin that we definitely always want to remain that optionality in terms of like, if something, if negative PR or anything came out that was negative, taking a stance and removing ourselves from any relationships that don't align with our values.
Great. I think we've got just maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Danny, I'm not sure if you're on right now, but if you are, 3 minutes. Okay, great. So I think that's enough time for maybe 1 or 2 quick questions. Do any of the judges have an additional pressing question they'd like to ask?
I'm going to throw in 2 again. Sorry. First is, where did the name come from? And then second, you started your story talking about waste. And to Greg's point, everything you've done, while it seems great in terms of improving the footprint of these, doesn't really address waste. So why are you starting your story there?
So to answer the first question, I'm from Thailand, and Sabai means cozy, comfy, easy in Thai. And so that's something that we basically felt like we wanted people to feel when it came to our furniture. It's comfortable, it's easy to be sustainable because it can feel so hard. With respect to, the furniture waste question, sorry. I completely agree that right now just because we're in the process of, you know, just starting and selling the furniture, the focus has very much been around the materials and the production, everything like that. I think we started the presentation on waste because we feel like that's one of the biggest issues and something that we're really trying to tackle that we feel like people haven't yet. So in terms of the redesign, just to give some background, most furniture can't actually be recycled if it's upholstered and uses glue or anything like that. So we're trying to incorporate that thought process into our design as much as possible to design a product that can actually be recycled if it really comes down to that. But at the same time, a product that is flat packed also allows for the opportunity for us to extend its life cycle through replacing different parts as there is wear and tear. So reducing the waste on that front. We didn't speak so much about it, but the closed loop initiatives and the repair don't replace initiatives are trying to address that issue. The closed loop initiative is one where we're really trying to figure out how to limit the amount of our furniture that actually ends up in landfills. So, you know, living in New York, you see furniture thrown out on the curb all the time. So to really try to inhibit that by giving people a fallback option, basically the thought process behind this, and it's definitely something we are still working on figuring out all the kinks of, but is that if anyone ultimately isn't able to sell their sofa or bring it with them, that we'll buy it back at a very steep discount and resell those pieces as secondhand pieces in bulk at like colleges or lower income communities, people who normally wouldn't be able to afford our sofas at retail price. So those are the thought processes around addressing furniture waste at the moment.
Okay, great. Danny, are we just about out of time, or do we have time for any additional questions?
30 seconds.
Okay. Anybody with a real quick question?
I just have a really quick comment. I think
Okay.
building off of Rob, on the waste part, on the one, you know, when I hear it, I love the waste part, but also what I think about when I think about waste of a sofa is I'm probably not going to throw it out for 10 years, right? So I don't have that urgency necessarily. Whereas I think in your messaging and other things in the manufacturing, in the way you go about doing it, you do have the urgency. So maybe think more about how am I going to create an impact now as a consumer by buying this rather than 10 years down the road.
Yeah, I think that was also part of it. Is we started the company with the thought that we were going to do the closed loop and like immediately, but then realized nobody wanted to sell their sofas back 6 months after they bought them. So even though the furniture waste is a big thing that we've been thinking about, it's not necessarily the first thing that the customers are currently have in mind. which has given us a bit of kind of lead time or leeway for unrolling or showcasing those programs in the coming years. But it is a big priority for us because we think it's so important and a really big place we can differentiate ourselves.
Great. Well, thank you so much to both Caitlin and Pantilla of the Sabai team. Let's give them a round of applause. And I know the attendees
Thank you.
see them, but hopefully you are doing that from home as well. So I see that Riley is on now and has kind of shown his video. So we're going to move on to the Block team. So representing Block is Riley Jones. So again, just some reminders. Riley will have 9 uninterrupted minutes. So I can see that the judges have already taken the liberty of kind of muting themselves for the 9-minute pitch. Once that's finished, we'll move into Q&A. And for Block's Q&A, we'll do it in the reverse order. So we'll actually start with Craig and then move our way back. And this time, Sarah will be kind of on the back end of the questions. Riley, I'm not sure if you were on for the beginning, but make sure you are watching Danny or can see kind of Danny's video because he'll be your timekeeper for today. At the 3-minute mark, he'll hold up a purple card. There he is. You're just lovely doing that, Danny. Yellow for the 1 minute, and then red when time is up. All right, so Riley, you can feel free to share your screen. And once that's up, then we'll start, you let us know when you're ready to go, and Danny will start the 9-minute timer.
Great, sounds good. Making sure you guys can see my screen.
Looks good.
All right, awesome. I'm ready to start. So good morning. My name is Riley Jones. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Block, where we build career services software to address the present and the future of work. We're a B2B SaaS software platform to help middle skills training providers, I'll talk about that in a little bit, close the skills information gap and the unemployment gap. And if we're discussing the present of work, it's also incumbent upon us to talk about the trends that are informing this. And not only the trends that are going to challenge us 50 years from now, but to pay attention to the people today that are homeless, who are hungry, and the 44 million jobs that were lost in the past few months due to COVID-19. And if there were ever a future of work for the business that we're building, the future is now. So why middle skills training? Well, there's approximately $1.1 trillion spent annually between colleges, boot camps, corporations, and government around middle skills training. And so we are, again, paying very close attention to the trends in terms of skill development, particularly in underserved communities, that we think that providing this business is a way for the career organizations that we serve to better and more effectively place the young people that they work with in jobs that they are looking for. So here's a couple of case studies to help you better understand the value proposition we offer to our customers. So T. Howard Foundation came to us because they were having trouble managing the collection of their data, its reporting, and then actually making it actionable in order to actually serve their students in terms of placing them with jobs and actually providing them career support. And so our platform is designed to help them better match their students to jobs and to increase their revenue streams through employer partnerships with their program. The Bronx Community College also came to us challenged by inconsistent measurement of their skills before and after the courses that they offered. And so they experienced decreased funding as a result of this because they weren't able to place as many people in jobs, and they were seeing a decline in actual graduation rates from the programs that they offer in technology. So again, our value proposition is offering a platform that allows customers to properly track skills development, use machine learning technologies to help employers highlight the skills they want to see students acquire, and then track the acquisition of those skills. And all of these provide a very structured environment for programs to help their participants find and be placed into jobs consistently. Our theory of change is pretty clear. By closing the skills information gap, we're able to drastically increase the quality of skills matching between students and help their programs actually be able to report to employers that the skills that they're developing so that they can increase job placements. In light of today's social environment, this is particularly important for young people of color who otherwise would not have access to quality career training. We did a bottom-up market analysis that showed that at scale, by serving nonprofits, government, and corporate learning subscriptions, there'd be about a $60 billion market for us in the United States alone to tackle. To summarize, from a product perspective, we have already developed 7 proprietary tools that help our customers digitize the processes that they've already spent money on to save. They already spend money on to actually make their processes more efficient among their employees, but again, also with the end goal of increasing job placement rates. There's real cost to these mismanaged relationships that we're helping to save money on. There's $17,000 for a job seeker, $30,000 for a program, and over $1 million per funder. That actually has real implications on how these programs are actually able to execute the goals that they set out to execute. As a B2B SaaS platform, we have 3 pricing tiers, $5,000, $15,000, and $30,000. At each level, as you can see, we have a variety of different offerings. The increase in price reflects the cost of account management and increased software development costs that keep our margins high, but it is important to note that we do all of our software development in-house. We don't outsource. We're able to develop a lot of these tools proprietarily. And the benefit is that once we work with a particular partner, that we're able to put those products on our roadmap and already have them developed, especially if they've already been paid for. And the goal is right now to offer agency and enterprise pricing for governments at the fall of 2020, starting at $100,000. Reach Capital, which is a prominent edtech funder, recently put out this graphic that I'm showing you here, describing the investment opportunity in the workforce development and education space. We fit neatly in this personalized pathways and support to middle skills pathway navigation. We understand that this space is kind of wonky and it's not necessarily familiar to other people. So I think this graphic is critically important to kind of demonstrate that this product and this business is venture backable, and it's a novel concept that, you know, to date we don't have many competitors as it relates to the specific focus of customer and the specific types of products that we build. We do have competitors at different aspects of our business. So on the career service management end, we have businesses like Handshake, which is mostly in higher ed. On the case management software end, we have things like Social Solutions. As far as smart career tools like VMock and JobScan, those things exist. And job search like Indeed and LinkedIn are all very popular as well. But our competitive advantage is that all data collection tools are structured and designed with workforce experts, the people that are using them, because in many cases, the customers and the case studies that we've done, they're using a variety of these tools to accomplish the same goal. So we work with organizations like the Knowledge House, and we built a resume skills parser with Microsoft Cities and DataKind to actually ensure that the tools that we're building are specific to the customer segment that we're tackling. And our business model also allows programs to earn revenue via co-designed data tools and receiving commissions through channel sales and things like that. And in development of no-code data tool builders to expedite development tools, we also have an extensive team that has a background in leading these workforce programs. Amina and I led a workforce program for 3 years before starting Block, and building scalable engineering tools. And we have advisors, which I'll talk about it a little bit later, in the CTO office for New York City, to you and other folks with experience and background in engineering at Google and Facebook, et cetera. There we go. There we go. So in terms of progress that we've made to date, at the semifinal, we had $68,000 in paid pilots. Since that, we've actually closed $54,000 in new contracts. And from a user perspective, this is really important because one of the contracts that we closed is actually serving the New York City Summer Youth Employment Program, which usually serves 70,000 young people. But due to COVID-19, they drastically reduced that to 25,000. We will be the sole technology provider for the 25,000 young people who will be using, who will need middle skills pathway navigation tools this summer. And we've developed partnerships with organizations like the Obama Foundation, the CUNY Internship Program, Fund 2 Foundation, and Melinda Gates' Reboot Representation Program as a way, again, to augment not only the business model aspect of what we're doing, but again, the impact that we're able to scale out, not just in New York City, but hopefully in other places moving forward. From a defensibility perspective, what makes us unique is our sales cycle and our partnership. So, even places like LinkedIn use Workforce Coalition partnerships. So we've spoken to organizations like NYC ETC, which is a coalition of 300 organizations that do this work, Trilogy Education, community college networks like CUNY. again, due to COVID-19, we understand that there's an increase in a demand for our product. And so we've improved our onboarding. We've expanded the ability to actually serve the customers more effectively and by adding more account managers to our team. And then, again, having no-code plugins for organization and program managers to actually implement the things that we're talking about is really important. Our financial plan is essentially, we had a goal of closing three partners at $30,000, closing about $90K by June 2020. We're well on our way to achieving that goal. The goal that in the next 3 years that we're at $3 million with 60 customers and at a $50,000 average price, that very well could be more if we are able to successfully execute the agency and enterprise pricing for the fall. And so what the grant would be used for would be exclusively, especially for the summer, serving 25,000 young people. That's going to take account management, that's going to take software development and customer success folks to actually get this accomplished for the young people that we serve. And so again, we ask you to join us in helping us craft a more sustainable future of work by closing the skills information gap. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Riley. Okay, so applause for Riley. I know we can't hear that, but great job. So we're going to now move into Q&A. And as I mentioned before Riley started, we're going to go in reverse order. So we're actually going to start with Greg. So as soon as Greg starts the first question, Danny, let's do 20 minutes.
All right, great. Thank you, Riley, and congrats on the work and everything that you're doing here. My question is a bit about the sort of the presentation more than anything. I mean, when I see that, hear your presentation and hear you go through it, I mean, I have a few reactions. One is you seem to really know what you're talking about, which is very, very clear, right? I mean, you understand this space, and it seems like you've built some fantastic solutions and have great partners and opportunities. The second part, which would be sort of more constructive criticism, I would say, is I feel a little bit like I'm drinking out of a fire hose.
Yeah.
And I'm drinking out of a fire hose of things that I don't necessarily understand.
Sure. Yeah.
So could you just go all the way back and in just layman's terms for somebody like me who doesn't understand this space, right? And think about, yes, certainly you're normally going to be presenting to people who do, right? And so they're going to get it, but I don't. But you're also looking for partners and want to collaborate with people who don't necessarily get the technical aspects of it.
Sure.
So what exactly is the pain, the broad systemic pain? But what exactly is the primary pain point of your customers? And what's that innovative thing that you are doing to solve?
Sure. So yeah, I guess I'll apologize preemptively for.
No need to apologize.
The scatteredness of the presentation. Amina, my co-founder, had a family emergency. Unfortunately, wasn't able to join, so there's some disconnect there. But,
no apologies necessary.
Gotcha. All that being said, I think to kind of make it more concise is we understand obviously the economic challenges presented by a thing like COVID-19. Those people need jobs and they need people to help them get them jobs. And those organizations, like the city government, like our customers, the Knowledge House, T. Howard Foundation, et cetera, are facing an unprecedented demand in terms of their services. And they have a requisite decrease in ability to fund those programs and staff time to actually accomplish them. So when I say things like job placement, I mean, that means resume review, which would happen typically at a career service organization or in a career services department at a university. So think about the different functions of something like that that happen at an organization like the Knowledge House. We're essentially helping them save time and thereby money by, again, helping them place their students in jobs through a technology platform that does not require them to pay for 4 or 5 different services that they're using right now, like on that competitive landscape slide that I showed you. But again, all of the things that we're building are in one place, which again saves time and money.
Thank you, much appreciated. Yeah, and please, no need to apologize. Fantastic job. I just wanted some clarity for me.
Sure.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, let's move on to Rebecca.
Riley, first let me say thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
This is an area that is near and dear for me, since my organization works with a lot of folks who are unemployed or underemployed and looking to improve their situation. So
Sure.
I appreciate the work you're doing.
Great.
My question for you is that as you kind of talk about this opportunity and the size of the market, you named a bunch of different users, a bunch of different potential customers, boot camps, colleges, workforce centers. And, you know, to me, that is like, wow, those are could be some customer segments who have very different needs, or maybe not, maybe they're all the same needs. And so I'd love to just hear a little bit about how you think about that and kind of how you're meeting the different needs of your potential customer segments.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I think that is something that we're quite attuned to. You know, I happen to have uniquely experienced these kind of various planes of existence myself. So I grew up on the south side of Chicago, which is where I am now actually, but happened to go to Columbia and then NYU Law and all these things, right? So I understand at some level that the services that I would need as a law student are going to be very different than the service I needed when I was a Chicago public school student. And so that is quite literally why we are focused on a technology solution. And that's why we have people like Olivia on our team that actually have experience in software development and machine learning and artificial intelligence, because by using those tools, we're actually able to customize the software offerings that we're providing to the customers. Because you're right, like what a K-12 education provider would need a resume for is very different than what someone who's a CUNY college student would need a resume for. And I'll add, you know, just because I know the work that you do, I think even specifically the use case for, you know, returning citizens and things like that, that is a specific use case in which I think data has historically not been used, you know, to serve that population. In fact, it's probably been used to the contrary. And so we're very much so attuned into that movement. And that's why I talked about DataKind and Microsoft Cities, because we're talking to the folks who are actually doing the work in terms of data for good and social impact.
Okay, perfect. All right, Marissa, question from you.
Sure. Yeah, wonderful presentation. So much you're doing. It's really great in such a critical area. Can you tell us about the skills categories? I wasn't quite clear if it was just tech, because tech was your example.
Sure.
And then also, will you clarify the deals versus the partnerships you're working on, which are with really impressive organizations, but was just curious to know more about those.
Sure. Let me find the partnerships. But in terms of skills, no, we actually we are not specifically focused on tech. And here's an example of our team. So we're not specifically focused on tech. So we have advisors that kind of serve a broad array of things. So for example, Gary is in the Chief Technology Officer's office in New York City, but Chris has a background more in immigrant rights. So a lot of the things are going to be related to even like the soft skills of like understanding how to communicate in English versus a native language, things like being able to interview properly. And those are partnerships we built with an organization called like Talk Hiring. So we are focused on the soft skills and the hard skills. It just happens that kind of in this particular environment that the technological skills are more in demand. And then to your question about the partnerships, so to clarify, the deals are with New York City government, so New York City Summer Youth Employment Program, and the partnerships are with the Obama Foundation. So in some sense, those people are our biggest champions and our channel partners. So they're able to introduce us to senior government folks who are focusing on this at the state and the city level, because the way that this space works is that everybody's spending money and there's really no coordination. So in some sense, an eventual goal in terms of our theory of change is actually being able to be the repository to work with these different folks across cities, across states, and eventually the entire country, that, you know, they're all able to pull resources and knowledge from.
Real quick, and thank you for clarifying that. That's great. So from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the partnerships are relationships and they're making those strategic introductions. How are you working with the partners versus the people you have deals with? That's my question.
Oh, I see. I got it. So the people that we have deals with, we have an account management team. So for example, Camille and Che are more or less managing those relationships. So in the Bronx Community College example, what would happen is that Olivia, as an engineer, would basically be staffed to support that particular deal as they need software engineering things, which again, because the platform is more or less self-service, is not as big of a need. But if they have a question or, you know, something related to billing and things like that, Shay would handle that. So we have essentially an account manager and a software engineer that's kind of tasked with understanding what the problems are for the deals. And then the partnerships and strategic relationship side, that's more my lane. And that I think has a very clear relationship in this space to business development and sales.
And and maybe I'm not being clear, I'm sorry. So the deals are people who are using your software
exactly
and
correct.
using your prototypes,
Yep.
and the partnerships are more relationships. They're not actually on the platform. Am I right or no?
It varies by case. So for example, the Obama Foundation has a My Brother's Keepers initiative, which who are students in New York City that will be using our platform, but it varies by program. And the same for CUNY, but that won't be the case for Fund 2. So Fund 2, for example, would be funding the summer internship program, but not necessarily having students per se on their platform, because every one of these programs doesn't have their own kind of constituency to use the platform. Is that more clear?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Marissa. Rob, if you have a question.
I do. I'm going to piggyback a comment and a question. First of all, both of you, Riley and your partner who has disappeared off my little grid here, I want to make sure to, Caitlin, just want to thank you both. Obviously a lot of thought's gone into it, and you guys have a lot of experience in this area. I think that's part of what Greg's getting to. It's an area that has its own language and world, and you guys have a lot of experience in it. It's great to see how you're building on that, particularly at a moment like this.
Sure.
So my first comment, I do a lot of work in this space as well, like Rebecca, so my comments are going to build a little on what she asked, but sure. I also work from the technology side of it.
Sure.
But I want to pull back to the core impact and theory of change here first, and this is not a question, so I just want to give you a bit of input. Mm-hmm. You know, the reality is you're not creating jobs. You're not creating new jobs for anyone, right?
Right.
So, and right now there are not, so to speak, enough jobs. Like that's the problem we're facing.
Sure.
So I think in how you think about the impact, you've got to be a little more specific.
Sure.
Partly because it is such a space of such activity, particularly from the funder side. So there's really two things I hear that you're addressing that I would consider putting a little more forefront in your theory of change.
Sure.
The first is you're reaching organizations that have a limited capacity to effectively compete for whatever jobs there are.
Sure.
with the cohorts they're training.
Mm-hmm.
You're capacitating them in some way.
Sure.
And addressing limitations in their resources. So I think that's the first thing that's got to come through. Mm-hmm. The second thing is by doing that, you may be helping communities that don't have as effective a way to try and compete for those jobs to compete for them. Sure. You know, because yep. You're reaching different organizations and capacitating them. So I just want to say, I would recommend you be more specific. Okay. With job placements itself is finite if there are a finite number of jobs. So what yep. Are you doing to tip the scales within that market if you're not creating jobs? So that's just a comment around the theory of change and how you think about impact and what connections you're trying to draw. One other comment is just so great to hear how you guys are adapting to the moment and bringing up the 25,000 youth, like bring that up on slide 1, not slide 30 at the end of your presentations. That was great. So the question does build on something Rebecca asked the last folks as well as her comments. Like, why doesn't this already exist? Mm-hmm. My intuition is it doesn't already exist because it's hard to capacitate these organizations. They have different needs. They're in different categories. And Cynthia, correct me if I'm wrong, there was another, someone who won a few years back who was focused on the college market. Do you remember that from NYU?
Oh, yes. You're going way back. Yes, yes, there was.
So the reason I bring them up is they weren't focused in the same way on this kind of workforce training. It was truly college students, but they looked at one segment of that market and how to capacitate it.
Yep.
So I guess my question to you is how, and around that, we've done a lot of looking at data literacy. And the reality is you give a lot of data tools to organizations as well as the individuals. It seems like individuals need to interact with your product as well, right? Yep. You can't just give them better tools without some capacitation. And so I guess question has two pieces. Why not choose one slice of this workforce development market, go after it big time? Mm-hmm. Second is how are you capacitating the organizations you want to work with and accounting for that level of effort in your business plan? Because no AI machine learning speak will get you out of that problem.
Sure. So I think I'll probably have to come back to the second one if I, get too far off on the first one. But I think you're exactly right in terms of understanding that like there is no, that at various levels, there are various levels of coordination among the software tools that exist, right? And I think what I have seen, and the reason why it hasn't been done before, is because most people, because of the investment landscape, most of the money has gone into college students, and so most of the money has gone into serving people who are more or less prepared to get a job. And so again, it's a chicken and egg thing where the challenge is that the organizations that don't have the organizations in some sense are just kind of going about their business and trying to accomplish their goal and not really thinking more strategically about what things could be collaborative to actually achieve it. And so again, we have the domain expertise having started our own program, which again is what I think lends us the ability to be unique in this space, and that we quite literally understand, having started a program that served 2,000 students, what these organizations are facing, and thereby have a I guess, an in, so to speak, with the various organizations that we're able to utilize to actually do sales, business development, et cetera. And so in some sense, the cost is captured there. We in some sense, we put the work in on the front end in that respect. But I do take your point that a technology tool is really only going to enable these people to do their jobs more effectively. And so I agree that we have exclusively focused on the workforce development market. The things around boot camps and college and those things elsewhere, that reflects a kind of shift in the understanding of our customers as to like what kinds of connectivity there should be. So there previously had been no like high school to community college to college pipeline in terms of skill development. That has changed specifically in New York City. And so we're again taking advantage of the specific trends that are informing how our customers are thinking about these things.
Yeah, so maybe a quick follow-up, and I know there's one more person, is just if workforce development is where you live and breathe,
yep,
like put that front and center. Acknowledge, particularly in COVID, it's a changing landscape, but many people you're going to talk to don't really know what workforce development is.
Yep.
And understand it. So yeah, I would just say, you know, as more as you can make it sound like you're tailoring it to a specific market, even that if there are a lot of broader system level connections that'll start to build around that, I think the more people are going to believe you can do it. That doesn't mean you don't grow from there, but people have to believe you can do it. And your personal experience and the way you articulated that was great.
All right, thank you.
Okay, terrific. All right, so I think we have just a couple minutes left, and that should be just enough time for Sarah to ask a question.
Okay, I'll take an academic view, Riley. I'm an entrepreneur in residence at Harvard Business School, and great professor early on when I was entrepreneuring, starting, you know, like 20 years ago at school, said his framework was people, opportunity, context, deal.
Yeah.
People was at the very top of the framework because it's so critical. And another academic view is from Dana Kanza, who is doing incredible research, and I'll make sure to get you guys an article, which shows that women and minorities get prevention questions during a pitch versus promotion questions. So I wanted to make sure I sent you a promotion question today, which we can call it a softball, but I just feel like you didn't talk enough about your incredible team.
Yeah.
And from the HBS view, it's all about people. The secret sauce of ventures is still about the founding team. So your promotion question today is rock it out, Riley. Give us the skinny here. Really, they look, I mean, your background, you're so smart, you're so articulate. Tell us about the team.
Sure. So again, I'm the CEO. Amina's the CTO. Amina and I met because she started this program for college students that I happen to go to. And it was just a bonding over the passion for this work. She used her background in political science data engineering to develop the product. And she was really our spearhead on the software end. Olivia's worked at places like Facebook and Google. Camille is a powerhouse in the AI world. She's based in the Bay. Gary, again, is a senior advisor to the CTO and thereby the mayor as it relates to technology, specifically as it relates to equity. Che has an extensive background in brand development. So something we got back from feedback from the 300K mentors was around brand and brand equity. So he's advising us on that point. And Chris actually was one of the program managers at the Knowledge House, which was our first customer when we got a grant from the Caper Center. And, you know, he was so impressed with our work that he joined.
Nice. Thank you. So important. Thank you.
Okay, great. And Danny, if you're there, can you confirm if we have any time left on the clock?
We have 2 minutes.
Okay, great. Do any of the judges, rather, sorry, have any additional questions in the 2 minutes?
I had one other question. I saw that you had 7 proprietary tools, and you clearly also have, you know, a working prototype. And I was wondering, do you have 7 prototypes, or, you know, in the future, it might be interesting to walk people through. I mean, that's really
Sure.
impressive, the stage that you're at, to share what the technology
Can you all
looks
see
like.
my screen?
Yes.
The video? Great. So if you guys, I hope you guys can see this. I'll make sure you guys can. But we have a demo. So yeah, you're right. The tools though are all built out. So they're not prototypes. They're being used right now. They're and if can you guys see this demo that's running? I can't tell.
We can see something, but it doesn't look like anything is moving.
Okay, great. So I'll work on fixing that. But yeah, we have 7 proprietary tools that are all functioning right now. You know, again, if Amina was able to make it, we definitely had planned to show you guys what we had planned in terms of the technology pitch. You should be able to see this now, though.
I think we can see that, Riley.
Great. So this is actually the DOE template for what we're going to build this year. So I mean, for the summer. So this actually is going to be, this is an example of the learning-based module that we have for them. It kind of, again, reflects what students will be inputting. And on the back end, the program managers and actually people who are going to be using it, it's 2-sided. And so what we do, and was kind of the middle person, is we take the insights from what students are submitting and kind of report those to the program manager so they understand what things. This is our cover letter template. These are our other tools. This is the data management side of things. So this is actually what a program manager would see.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem.
In the nick of time there. Okay, so you know, that concludes the social venture teams.